My name is Beatrice Alex. I'm from Edinburgh University from the School of Informatics, and I work on text mining. And for anyone who doesn't know what text mining is, which maybe could be some of you, I'm not sure it's exactly, but it's basically extracting, processing like unstructured text and extracting the information from text to make it more accessible in a very general description. So the work I will talk about today is the Palimpsest project. It's an AHRC-funded big data project where we collaborate with literary scholars at Edinburgh University, as well as visualization experts at St. Andrews, and also Edina, who are part of Edinburgh University Library. And the project aims to basically mine Edinburgh's literature, so any literature that is set in Edinburgh, not literature that is written in Edinburgh. So this is a 15-month project, and I already mentioned the partners involved. We are responsible for the text processing. We have the literature scholars there for getting us feedback and being our experts basically in the domain. The people in St. Andrews are doing visualization development for an online web and app user interfaces, and then Edina is mainly managing the database that we'll create as part of this, and they are also encouraging us in publishing our research in blogs and on our website. So the whole idea for Palimpsest arose out of an idea by Miranda Anderson at Edinburgh, who thought of creating a tool where scholars and also visitors like tourists could walk through Edinburgh and discover its literature by being able to, by location-based kind of pop-ups. So there was a really relatively simple and short-term project to develop this prototype, I think mainly using sort of MSc projects to develop some visualizations, kind of prototype versions, to see how the literature, where the literature is happening and where it's set in Edinburgh. And then when I met Miranda, we thought, wouldn't it be great to make this into a much larger project, because her content was a few hundred extracts submitted to her by anyone she knew in the literature department. And she then spent time geolocating them, and that was the initial data that went into her prototype. So we applied to AHRC for Palimpsest, and where the idea really was to mine a lot of literature and then drill down to find the content that was of relevance. So first of all, we had to come up with a method of identifying Edinburghness, or how we have come to define it as local specificity. So people in literature are interested in a place occurring in literature, and we had to decide what types of literature we want to be in and what would be out. So for example, here we have an extract of Frankenstein, and you can see that there are some mentions of Edinburgh and also mentions of places within Edinburgh, and we had to make a decision of whether or not a book which only in passing mentions Edinburgh and some of its places would be contained as part of our collection, and in this case we decided yes. Other issues that are kind of arising as part of this are place names that existed in the past but are no longer there now. So here we have a more kind of conventional Edinburgh set literary text called Picturesque Notes by Robert Louis Stevenson, and you can see there is a mention of Tolbooth and Heart of Midlothian. So the heart is still there, but the Tolbooths and the Luckenbooths, which were located on the Royal Mile, are no longer there now. And then we have modern works. I won't read this out to you. You might be relieved. But you can see, by the way, this is the first time I have been able to put some swear words onto an academic talk. So this is an extract from Irvin Welsh's Trainspotting, and you can see that while the language is very interesting in places. The actual place names are surprisingly as they are now, so he hasn't really changed the writing. So, but there are other works where this isn't the case, so where you have like more local spellings of a place name. So we have to worry about those. So the data sets that we are using as part of this project are basically all of the literature that is accessible to us. British Library 19th Century Books collection is the second biggest collection that we are processing. And we're really grateful for being able to access that. The biggest one is the Hathi Trust collection. It's got over 250,000 documents that are worldwide public domain. And then there are some smaller collections as well. And we've also approached some modern authors or authors whose works are still in copyright, as in their publishers, whether we can include their material, and some of them have agreed to that as well. So it's mainly focusing on out-of-copyright literature, but some modern literature as well. And in total, there will be around 350 documents that we are putting into our big filter to kind of consider as candidates. So this is the project workflow. We start with all of the digitized collections that we've got access to. And we then apply document retrieval and filtering to create like a ranked list per collection. We use any of the metadata that we have for a collection, including Library of Congress codes, titles, authors, and so on, to make our decisions, and also obviously the content of each of the texts. We have a list of Edinburgh place names that we use as a query to come up with this ranking. And then we have this manual curation step where the ranked lists, which is a much, much smaller subset of the initial collections, are then curated. But some of the information that we have mined is made accessible to them to make their decisions easier. And for us, this step was always crucial right from the start as we were writing the proposal, because while our mining techniques are very good at like doing trend detection and spotting large kind of trends in data, basically, when it comes to the minute detail, as you know, we wanted to end up with, we really needed a human in the loop here. And so this is really crucial. And at the same time, the manual curators are feeding back to us to improve our software. So we currently are doing another iteration where we improve the retrieval to then create better ranking. Once we've got our ranked, so our curated Edinburgh texts, we then apply our text mining, where we identify place names and georeference them to an Edinburgh gazetteer. So this is fine-grained georeferencing to the particular buildings or street names even, or areas. And then all of that data is put into a database and is then the backend to the visualizations. So in our case, it's a big data in and small data out. And having the humans in our whole flow is, so the literary scholars, the experts, is really important, because while the text mining allows and the document retrieval allows us to spot candidates and not just concentrate on literature that is well known and well read, and potentially identify things that aren't really that well known, the human then is much easier at spotting what's relevant and not. So the final product will be relatively high in precision and recall. So our tasks in the School of Informatics are to, first of all, identify the literary works, and to basically do this ranking that I already mentioned. And then developing the Edinburgh fine-grained gazetteer is one of the important steps in this. This doesn't currently exist, so we are aggregating it from a number of resources. And we are using the Edinburgh geoparser and adapting that basically to which is currently working on mainly kind of like larger locations around the world. So we're trying to make it, to change it so that it does more fine-grained referencing. But first of all, before we do any processing in terms of the more interesting text mining task, we have to convert all our data to one common format, identify anything that's written in English. Those are relatively easy tasks, but they can take a long time, especially the first step. We then have to do some post-correction automatically of the OCR, some of which can be done kind of in a standard way. And then we also do linguistic pre-processing. So the document retrieval task I've already kind of explained a little bit in the overview. We started off at the beginning with Hathi-Trust data because that was the one that we had access to right from the start. And we used that to kind of tune our system and then applied the improved methods based on the feedback from the curators to all the other collections. So here is a list of some of the documents that we got from the British Library collection. You can see that there are some documents which are potentially like travel literature and some that are more historically focused. And then you can see at the bottom also one that is actually fiction, brought to bay experiences of a city detective. So Edinburgh was already in 1878 people were already publishing detective stories set in it. So this kind of ranked list is then loaded into this annotation tool developed at St. Andrews. And you can see on the left all of the ranked books, and then on the right the snippets with the locations that we found in each of the texts. And then the annotator has to make a decision of whether or not a work is in or out, basically. There are some more fine-grained decisions based on genre. For example, we are currently not processing poetry because we thought we have enough to do with processing fiction. And so we are marking that separately so that maybe, hopefully, in the future we can tackle that. The other thing that's probably not visible is you can also link to the original documents from the various data providers to be able for the annotators to go and look at them and look at the images and decide, if this kind of information they have here isn't already enough. So text mining is usually the hope of text mining is always discovery. This doesn't always happen, but in this case, we were pleased to hear from our annotators that they did find some works which they didn't already know of and which they found really interesting. So, for example, right on the right-hand side, there is a book called John and Betty's Scotch History Visit. It's like a fictionary description of Scottish history for children, basically. And just at the end, I'll talk a little bit about the gazetteer creation. So we are, to do all that, we need this Edinburgh gazetteer where we can link all of the place names mentioned in the text to actual lat longs to be able to then do some interesting mapping. So we've combined various resources from OpenStreetMap, data from OS Locator, from the Royal Commission of Ancient and Historic Monuments of Scotland and Historic Scotland. So it's basically 5 different data providers, and we're trying to combine them all into one format, which isn't that straightforward because there are things like multiple occurrences of the same location, even though they might just be a little bit far apart, but we still have to make sure that these, they are actually the same entry. We also have some really good examples. I mean, I've listed a few at the top here: Adam Bothwell's house, Adam Smith's statue, Oxford Bar. But then we have other content in those sources which is really not going to be relevant for processing literature. So we need to do some kind of cleaning of this process of gazetteer aggregation. So once we've got our gazetteer, we can now So we've already got a kind of initial version of this gazetteer, and we are now georeferencing the texts that have already been annotated as belonging to our gold set, basically, to then we can mine those and then basically georeference the locations within them. And our next step is to look at the context around the location to see if we can do any more interesting linguistic analysis that would be sort of mainly of interest for the literary scholars. And this is just a little sneak preview of the interface, the mobile interface that St. Andrews is working on. It's currently developed. They're looking at a way of displaying the various locations and the snippets of around the locations while walking through the city, and then also do interesting visualizations around authors, titles, and temporal kind of aspects. So now I can summarize. Basically, we are 10 months into this project. At the end, I already said we are going to have a web-based visualization and a mobile app that they are currently under development. And the aim really is to create something that is of interest to literary scholars, but also for the general public, because we found that whenever we talk about this project to anyone in Edinburgh, anyone in the kind of cultural sector, they're like, people are interested in that sort of information. There are lots of literary pub tours, and so people want to know whose work was set in their street, basically. This project really focused on going from big data to small data, and the human element was really important. Our domain experts are really important. So we have this assisted curation process where technology is used, but then the experts are needed to get a really good data set. And just to say at the end, the Edinburgh Gazetteer and the GeoBars are available for research if anyone is interested. LTG is this is my group. It's called the Language Technology Group of Edinburgh. We are involved in lots of other text mining projects, not just in the literary domain. And if you have any questions, then feel free to ask me.